figures that I find the most mysterious are not the chiefs or the warriors, but the medicine men, and they had a unique role in their influence over their tribal communities. And I have here a short piece from a book called Shoshone Folklore. I don't know who wrote it or what year it was published. It's quite a while ago. But there was a brief description of the Shoshone medicine men in here, and I want to share that with you because I think it's really fascinating. Ba which you get, buffalo bellowing, or Bow Lake. Bow Lake is an enchanted sheet of water situated in a deep canyon, and when the wind rushes through the gorge, it sounds like a buffalo bellowing. And then the Indian medicine man can see a huge gray buffalo rise from the lake as he stands on the water. The buffalo shakes his mane and tail and bellows with a roar like thunder. And near the water's edge is an enchanted rock or cliff on which are written hieroglyphics. Writing or magic is what the Indians call these signs. A Shoshone who wants to be a medicine man has to go to this lake and sleep near it all night long. He then becomes endowed with magic or spiritual powers. A certain Indian named Tabatsi thought he would try the experiment. He tied his horse to a tree long way off, and then went over to the lake and endeavored to compose himself so that he could fall asleep. All night long he heard awful sounds and beheld terrible ghosts. He was so frightened that he covered his head securely with his blankets. Tabatsi was determined, though, to become a medicine man. He braved these terrors until shortly before dawn, when a rattlesnake interfered and buzzed so close to his ear as to upset his overwrought nerves entirely. Tabatsi jumped up, fled to his horse, and rode away like the wind, so that he could not become a medicine man because he was overcome with fear at Buffalo Lake. Tabatsi went hunting one day with a friend of a Mr. Roberts. His companion shot seven times at an elk across the lake in the mountains, and the animal never moved. "Stop!" shouted Tabatsi, rushing to the man and holding down his arms. "This is not an elk. This is an apparition." As a rule, these Indians are not afraid to pick up rattlesnakes. Mayovo, a Shoshone, seized one by the neck, which prevented it from biting him. The snake was very strong, too, and wound itself around about Mayovo's arm. And another Indian, seeing a rattler advancing towards him, laid his hand on the ground and let the snake crawl over it as well as up his sleeve, and it was not a rattlesnake that anyone else had ever had any dealings with. These doctors or medicine men sang and danced around the patient to the beating of a drum, and they often cut the arms and legs of the sick as a cure for the disease, like bloodletting, and sometimes gave them a medicine made of herbs. These men, as a rule, went about and assumed that they had the power or spirit of medicine within them. Mr. Roberts had told me of a doctor who had papers to show his authority. One night the medicine man was lying awake in his teepee, and he heard his name called 2 or 3 times by someone from above, and he finally answered. "Come out of your teepee," said the voice, and he immediately went outside, but could discern no one about. In a moment the voice said, "I give this paper to you," and he looked up and saw a paper floating from the sky down towards his teepee. And he ran up the teepee pole, and standing on the topmost end, tiptoed, seized the document as it was going by him. "And that is the way," said he, "in which I got my papers giving me authority to become a medicine man." Well, he chewed roots and, mixing the juice with water, dispersed it over the patient as a Chinese laundryman would do of old sprinkled clothes. He also used suggestion, often saying to the sick man or woman, "You are not sick now," to which they would reply, "No, I am not." "You are much better," he would reaffirm. "Yes, I am." And the medicine man would do that to convince them, so to speak, that they were getting better. And there's a lot of truth to the power of suggestion. The medicine man still retains his great influence, and the Shoshone, in cases of serious illness, believe more in him than they do in the physicians furnished by the government. The Shoshone medicine men formerly possessed a kind of talisman in the shape of a small black stone, and when they took it with them to a lodge or cabin of a person who was ill for the purpose of healing him, it was sure to bring about good health. But if a medicine man had a grudge against the family, or if he was paid by an enemy to bring affliction upon that family, it was securely hidden within their lodge. The family would then invariably be visited with severe illnesses or even death. If this little black stone were rubbed on a bullet or on the point of an arrow, the aim of either would be unerring. "Here they all are," said the Indian to Mr. Roberts, and pulling out a buckskin string, which he wore around his neck, he showed him suspended upon it the claw of a bear, one of a badger, and the talon of an eagle. "What do you think of that?" he asked. Mr. Roberts replied, "For a man to tell lies about another human is a very bad thing, but to tell lies about God, as you have done, is a heap worse." And the Indian, turning white as a sheet, was evidently very much frightened by what Mr. Roberts had said, and he got up, saying as he went out, "But I pray to God not to take me away." Some little time ago, one of the Shoshones stabbed another in the back, and the knife did not penetrate far, as it struck a bone. The Indian who was wounded remarked he could not harm me, that I have a turtle shell inside of me under my skin. I can take the turtle out through my mouth whenever I choose. I am a medicine man. And Mr. Roberts, in talking with another Indian about it, said, "Do you believe that?" "Why, yes, of course," he said. "That man showed me the turtle. It was in his tent." A Shoshone Indian boy, well known to Mr. Roberts, was very ill and became unconscious, and the parents called in a medicine man. "The mugwa, the personality of the boy, is gone," said the medicine man. "There is nothing left but the breath. I shall have to die myself in order to call him back. Come into the other room," he requested of the boy's father. "Now I'm going to be dead," he said. "I will lie down on the floor perfectly still, then turn me over on my face. After 2 or 3 hours come in and pound me on my back 3 times to bring me back to life." The father of the boy followed his instructions to the letter, and the medicine man roused himself slowly and remarked, "I was really dead. I went across to the western side of the mountains and found your boy playing with all the little dead boys. I called him back, and the boy recovered consciousness, and he became quite well again." And this same medicine man did a queer thing. A Shoshone Indian had a large family, of which the youngest child, a girl, was very precocious. When only 2 or 3 months old, she could not only run around, but she could also talk. "That little girl is not a bit like other children," he said. "And do you know what is the matter with her? Why, the Ninum, the little devil of the Shoshones, of which we'll talk more later, has taken possession of her and made her body his dwelling place. She will bring no end to the trouble on you and your family. You will all become sick and die. For your own sakes, this is the only one thing that you can do. Take the child off to the mountains and leave her there. When her body dies, Ninembeb will come out of her." And the poor parents believed all of this, so with sorrowful steps, they started one day for the mountains with the little child. On the way, they met a man who was part Mexican and part Indian, and stopped to talk to him. "Where are you going?" he inquired, and they told him their story. He was furious and swore in a terrible manner. "You will do no such cruel thing to her," he said. "I will have the child baptized and make her one of my own family." And the Mexican brought the child to Mr. Roberts for baptism, for he thought that the ceremony would drive out the evil spirit or Ninembeb. Then, although he had several children, he ran the risk of taking her into his own house. The child lived to be about 8 years old. The sage hen, or Huja, is the spirit of medicine, and Huja Nikar means sage hen or sun dance. Once upon a time, an Indian who was hunting shot a sage hen, and she did not move. He shot again, then a third time, but she stood stock still. In a little while she turned around, looked at him reproachfully, and said, "Do you know that it is impossible to kill me? I am the spirit of medicine. Henceforth you'll be plagued with illnesses." And the young Indian walked away sorrowfully. Sage Hen was wandering about one day with her little ones when Coyote suddenly appeared. "Well, what are the names of all these little sage chickens?" he inquired. And I'm going to stop there, and I'll pick up soon with the story about the sage hens. Uh, the Native American medicine man, whether it's in the plains states or where the Shoshone were, or here in the woodlands, or in the southwest or southeast, or even South America, Central America, they were a fascinating and powerful breed. So I hope that you enjoyed this brief little piece that I had to share with you. And God willing, I'll be back with you again real soon. Take care. God bless. Love you all very much. Later.